Hello, I'm Melita from Timeless Yoga, bringing you wisdom from the 8-step system that is yoga. In previous videos, we've looked at some of the other yamas or pearls of wisdom to assist you in life. One of the videos addressed ahimsa, which is about non-harming. The second one was about satya, truth. The third, asteya, non-stealing. And today we're going to have a look at Brahmacharya, which is often translated as non-excess. Another way of looking at it is that to stay in conduct with one's own self, it's often referred to as celibacy and looked at it only as such. However, there are many other interpretations and extensions of this that may apply well to our modern day life. If you like, you can look at it as entering each day mindfully, consciously, with a sense of grace or sacredness rather than indulgence. And I guess the question is, how can we apply this yama to our everyday life? And part of that may be slowing down and connecting with your senses. And by doing this, whatever practice you may have that helps you to achieve it, we can become more consciously aware, wherever possible, to acknowledge the small things, to appreciate, to have wonder, to also be satisfied with what we have. So in that sense, it still relates to having an awareness of excess and an awareness of when something is too much. And the reason we want to look at that is because when we're living in excess, in whatever way it may be, there's usually a reduction in joy, a reduction in vitality, and if you like, a lack of freedom. So Brahmacharya is really the opposite of greed, and it requires the understanding that whenever we take or overuse, overindulge in anything, an imbalance exists. It could be with any number of things, like the obvious things are work, food, sleep, possessions, sex, money, social media, time, alcohol, and it can even relate to spirituality. The point to understand is, or to ask yourself is, for you, what is enough? And can I enjoy that? And be able to enjoy that in this moment rather than FOMO, fear of missing out, always looking for the next thing. So to do so, we need a space of acceptance and a moment to be able to really enjoy what's in front of us, rather than that sense of grasping and always needing more. And in positive psychology, they call this savoring. So really being able to bring our senses to the moment, to be very present, and to be able to actually sit with and enjoy our current experience. So Brahmacharya doesn't mean that we don't enjoy things. That's not what it's about. It's finding that balance where you tip over from enjoying to too much. So a very crude, simple example would be, if you're eating chocolates and you have one chocolate and really thoroughly enjoy it, and you have two chocolates and really thoroughly enjoy it, slowly savoring the texture, the flavors, the sensations. Maybe at the third one, you're eating it, but it's not really that enjoyable anymore. Or maybe it's the fourth one. You know what I mean? There's a certain tipping point where we intuitively know that it's enough, and often stopping when it's enough, not just with food or alcohol, with anything in life really, is where we find that sweet spot, that joy. And ultimately, that's what brings us imbalance in life. So, society's tendency is always towards, I'll be happy when. So that wanting more, I'll be happy when I get that job. I'll be happy when I have that relationship, or I'll be happy when I own that car or own that this or that, or when I achieve that goal, or I gain this particular qualification or have that status, or when some other person does or says this, when I have more time or more money or more freedom, when I can travel to such and such a place. So these are all things in the future, and there's an element of dissatisfaction there with what we currently have. So it's not to say that we don't have goals and that we don't work diligently towards things that are meaningful to us and beneficial to us. It's just that we have an awareness of, are we just focusing on I and me and my? That's usually when we know that we're working in excess or a sense of grasping. And when we have some idea that the current experience that we have is less than or not enough, or is not meeting our expectations, and by doing so we're only able to have a focus on the future. We can also think of Brahmacharya as an invitation toward the right use of energy. That's another way of thinking about it. And, a really simple example of this can be found in our yoga practice. So, if we typically look at asana, the physical postures and the way that that is practiced in the West, in yoga practice, ultimately what we're actually trying to move towards is moderation, to create a more balanced nervous system. And too much of any one thing will create imbalance, just like overuse injuries. So too much yang asana, so those really powerful, fast, strong type physical asana, that will work our muscles definitely, and maybe our cardiovascular system. However, it's not going to attend to our fascia or our ligaments and joints as much. Whereas if we only did yin type asana or practice, that's more restorative, staying in poses longer, we may not promote adequate strength and, having good stress to make sure that our body is anti-fragile or is able to cope with everything in life. So, likewise, just practicing one asana will, without the support of pranayama or breath work, they're not any different to an aerobics class, and it's no longer yoga. We need the asana and the pranayama to prepare us for focus, for concentration, and for the ultimate goal of yoga, which is meditation. So we can see that if we always stick with what we know and what we love in a way that is too much, there's always going to be a counterbalance to that. There's a fallout from it, if you like. So in this way, you can see how too much of anything automatically means not enough of something else. Just like too much food will mean not enough energy. We feel very fatigued when we have too much food. Or too much time focusing on the future or the past. Of course, the balance of that is that it takes away from the present. Too much energy given to what we don't have, or maybe focusing outward towards what others have, that steals us from being able to enjoy what we do have. Even expecting too much of others, expecting them to behave the way we want them to, or even expecting too much from ourselves, perfection. Well, the balance side of that is then we have some disappointment, frustration, etc. So the point is that excess, in whatever form it takes, it reduces our vitality, our prana, our life force, and ultimately our well-being. It's similar to when we excessively, and I know we've all had that situation, excessively really buy into the stories or the drama of our mind, that is our thoughts. Now, often those thoughts and stories aren't even true, but we keep repeating it in our mind and we get almost stuck on it or fixated on it. Or it could be that someone said something or something happened and we excessively think about it, we excessively repeat it, we excessively worry about it. So that's also obviously going to cause disharmony. Deborah Adele, who wrote a magnificent book called The Yamas and Yamas, she really eloquently suggests that we need to be true to the purpose and limits of each thing in existence. So imagine yourself every day in different moments, just thinking, okay, is this true to me? Is this true to the limit of this experience? Am I pushing too much? Or can I take a breath and be with what is? It talks about Brahmacharya being about being in the pleasure, that's fine, but not the addiction. Remembering that when we are rested, nothing is dull or ordinary and everything glows with mystery. So being rested is sometimes the antithesis of excess. If we're doing too much, if we're being too much, if we're on the mouse wheel, if you like. She also suggests that when we get the real nourishment of divine mystery, in whatever way, shape, or form that is for you, the pretend nourishment of excess ceases to own us. So when we're able to find that very fine line, that sweet spot between enjoying and pleasure and appreciation, and we don't need to tip over into more excess addiction. And I'm referring to everyday things. Obviously, addiction issues are another topic. We then get true nourishment. An example I can give you that I'm sure everyone can relate to is watching Netflix. So you know what, if you watched 1 or 2 episodes, you might find that that's really enjoyable. And then you might turn it off, go to bed and have a good night's sleep. But when we let it just autoplay, next episode, we find that the more that we do that, when we get into it a little bit excessively, like, a bit of a Netflix binge, then it actually distracts from the experience and the enjoyment altogether. So it's a little bit like that with all different parts of our life. So with this idea of Brahmacharya in place now, if you'd like to apply it in your life or just have an experiment with it, perhaps you could live the next week in non-excess, to be able to really play with the edge of what is too much and what is enough in all different aspects of your life. Or perhaps there's one particular area that you want to focus on that you have a tendency for excess. Maybe it's sleep, maybe it's work, maybe it's eating, maybe it's drinking, whatever it is. And I guess the best way to do that is to be able to just take a moment to engage with your sensations in the body. So, they often talk about when you're eating, with each mouthful, taking the time to savor the food, chewing slowly, putting the utensils down, checking in. Oh, is this enough? And then maybe having a little bit more. Is this enough? So it's a very mindful, conscious practice. And I encourage you to have a go at it and just see for yourself. All of the content in these different videos are, of course, as always, just recommendations. And the ultimate goal is to bring wellness and balance and vitality to your life, as I've found through the system of yoga. But have a go with that. If you're really liking these videos, please subscribe below or share them with someone that you think might find value in it. And until next time, thank you so much for your time, your presence, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.